Okay, I think we are live. Oh, for love of Pete. Hang on, I need to do a quick thing so I can see the chat. That is so strange. Cool, there we go. Now I can see the chat. Cool. Hello everybody. Drex here. And yeah, Q&A, my first in like 6 months. Oh, Jillian's on there. Hello, Jillian. You can hear me, right? Just to double check, I changed my audio setup from the last live stream I did. I can see and hear you. Perfect. That's helpful to hear. Yeah. So it has been 6 months since I've done a live stream Q&A, and I figured we were a little bit overdue for one. Usually when I do these live streams, I'm choreographing the combo for my next poi dance class, but doing something a little different this time since it's been so long since I have done a Q&A. I'm just opening it up to your questions and answering them to the best of my ability. So we are going to be going, it's 7:04 here where I am, and I'm planning on going to about 8 o'clock, answering your questions, whatever they happen to be. While we're doing this, two things to bear in mind. Number one, it says on the bottom of the screen, Super Chat helps the channel. If you see that little button in the chat that looks like a little square, it's got a $sign inside of it. That is the Super Chat function, and if you click on that, you can leave me and the channel a tip. All of that money comes directly to me. And I would really appreciate any help that you can give me. Number two is that my next live stream poi dance class is coming up on October 22nd. It's going to be a 4-week class, and we are going to be talking in it about poi pendulums. And this will be a little bit more trick intensive than my previous poi dance classes have been. We did our last unit on expression, and I think some cool things happened there. But yeah, it's time to pivot a little bit back towards learning actual tricks. So that's what we're going to be covering, pendulum-based tricks and techniques in my live stream classes. You can learn more about that at the link down in the description. It's crowdcast.io/c/ I believe it is, I want to say, let me double check here so don't get it wrong. It is poi-pendulums-drex. That is, once again, crowdcast.io/c/ poi-pendulums-drex. Yeah. So, evening, says Thespis. Good evening. Good evening. So there might be more than usual background noise in my place tonight, and that is just a number of circumstances piled up, unfortunately. And earlier this afternoon, I had an exterminator come because my apartment was overrun with bugs. So it is still, I would say that the apartment is still a little, it's still a little funky from the fumigation. So I'm leaving all the windows open to hopefully air it out, because there wasn't enough time to do so before I had to hop on here. So I know you all out there don't care about what my apartment smells like, but it does mean that there's going to be a little bit more background noise than usual here. So I apologize. Anyhow, so we can, at this point, I'm going to open up the floor to your questions. Whatever you want to know. Yeah, there's no limit on what question you can ask. If it's something personal, I may opt to give either partial or no answer to it. But yeah, whatever you guys want to learn about. That's what you get to do tonight. So take advantage of it. Yeah. So go ahead and drop into the chat any questions you may have, and I will do my best to answer them. I don't know how up to date my stats are, but according to my stats, there's like 4 of you out there. So, Mitchell Oberman asks, do you like subtronics? I do not know what subtronics is. I can look it up though. Subtronics. Jillian asks, how do you do Man's Diamond? And by that, I'm pretty sure she means Xans Diamond. Oh. Yeah, she deleted that comment, so I'm willing to bet she's retyping it. That might have been, I wonder if that was an autocorrect. I'm going to look up subtronics in the meantime. Subtronics is an American DJ. Never heard of this guy. Yeah, so... I feel compelled to inform you at this point that I am that thing that's a little different from the other things. I don't actually I don't listen to very much EDM. It's not my favorite genre. I am more a fan. I tell you what, I've been really enjoying the pop charts for the last few months. Over the summer, there was a point where a lot of the top 40 was dominated by British neo soul, and that was my happy place. I loved all of that. Teddy Swims, Benson Boone, great time. Loved all that. And then for a little while, the pop charts kind of switched over to being a lot of country songs, which was kind of strange to me. My super chat option has stopped working, says Louise Lanthier. Oh no, I will try again. Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah, now it's kind of shifting over. Linkin Park has got a bunch of songs in the top 40. Which is funny to me because it's been at least a decade since that's happened. But yeah, never heard of Subtronics. I'll give them a listen. See what I think. See what I think about him. But okay, Jillian has come back and asked, "How do you do Xans Diamond?" Okay, so let me hop into that right quick. First question of the night to be answered. And let me just make sure. Yes, okay, audio is still coming in. Perfect. Okay, so Xans Diamond. The secret to getting down Xans Diamond is to realize that it's basically a bunch of anti-spin triangles that have all been stuck together. So I accidentally figured out Xans Diamond on accident. And the way that happened was I was playing around with triquetras, 3-petal anti-spin flowers. And I got it into my head, it's like, wait, there's ways that you could stick 2 triquetras next to each other. So like I could come through like that and then like that. Just kind of draw out a bunch of triangles that were connected to each other. And while I was doing that, I kind of got to a point where I'd stuck 4 of those triangles together, and what do you know? That's the same thing as Xans Diamond. Who knew, right? So if you're learning it yourself, the instructions that I would give you are to start off by learning linear extensions. That is, be able to move your hand straight back and forth in a line and have the poi just go around it. Work on getting down linear extensions with your hand going straight up and down, with your hand going off on a diagonal between your left hip and your right shoulder. Learn it on a diagonal going back and forth between your right hip and your left shoulder, and also to learn it going back and forth in a horizontal line. That'll involve dragging the poi underneath your hand over to the left, and then flicking the tether over your hand as you bring it back over to the right. Drag under, flick over, drag under, flick over, drag under, flick over, drag under, flick over, like so, going back and forth. Once you have all 4 of those options down, you can start to kind of chain them together. The first way that this happens is, to kind of skip forward a little bit, what you can do then is kind of break down just learning a triquetra by thinking we're going to start from up, and keeping the poi spinning clockwise, we're going to think left, right, up, left, right, up, left, right, up, left, right, up, and try and make sure that left and right are about at shoulder level and that up is above your head. Again, left, right, up, left, right, up, left, right, up. When that gets to feel comfortable, you can go ahead and add the triangle on bottom. So thinking that you're going to start from down and then right, left, down, right, left, down, right, left, down, right, left, down, right, left, down. So you wind up with a triangle pointing down, and once again, the right and the left are about at shoulder level. And then you can just put the 2 pieces together. So if you start off with that linear extension where your hand is just bouncing up and down, off the top part, you can think left, right, up, and return to bouncing your hand up and down. And then off the bottom, you can think right, left, down, and return to bouncing straight up and down in that line. So you want to practice going left, right, up off the top, and then right, left, down off the bottom. Again, left, right, up when you come off the top, and right, left, down when you come off the bottom. And then you work on just going straight back and forth between them, thinking left, right, up, down, right, left, down, up, left, right, up, down, right, left, down. Seems like a lot, but really it's just a question of memorizing the order of those points, getting your hand used to going through them, left, right, up, down, right, left, down, up, left, right, up, down, right, left, down, and working to get that down with the poi. It takes a little bit of practice, but it's totally doable. I have taught people who have just picked up a set of poi how to do this inside of an hour. So if you got the right pieces, you can put it together. Yeah, I have a video, I have several videos actually on how to do this that if you look up linear extensions on my channel, you will be able to find the video tutorials that I did on Xans Diamond years and years ago, and the technique is still the same. Oh goodness, there's a lot going on in the chat here. Let me switch back. Cool, so let me catch up on everything that's going on here. Oh, and also just to be clear to everybody, if you give me, if you tip the channel, if you share a super chat, that'll also get your question basically marked up in the queue. So I'm going to answer the questions in the order that I get them, unless a super chat comes in which case I'm going to prioritize that question. So let me right quickly see. So that's from Louise Lanthier, excuse me. Thank you so much, Louise. I really appreciate you. Let's see if Louise has a question. Yes, it did work, Louise. And yes, I appreciate you. Everybody, look carefully what Louise did. We appreciate the super chats. Thank you so much. Louise says, I used to be a baton twirler as a young girl. Oh, that's excellent. I admire what you do. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It did work. It looks like there's no question associated with that. If you do have a question, Louise, you're free to answer it. And again, I will jump you to the top of the queue when you do. But thank you so much for the super chat. That means a lot to me. Nico Treats says, what's up, man? So what got you into flow arts and what's your sign, brother? So I'll answer the first one. What first got me into flow arts was going to Burning Man in 2006. That was first time going to Burning Man, first time seeing people spinning fire, and I really wanted to learn how to do it. So came home, found somebody to teach me, had a lesson with them, and the lesson was a complete failure. I spent 2 hours trying and failing to learn how to how to do basic reels, and I actually gave up. And then my roommate had gone on holiday in Thailand, and he came home with a set of poi that he bought in a street market there, and he's just like, hey, you know, he said, you want to learn how to do this, right? I'm like, yeah, so I did. So partially out of feeling obligated to him, I picked them up and started practicing with them again. And that time it stuck. The rest is kind of history after that. But yeah, we came very close to, very close to poi not being a part of my life at all. So yeah. As for my sign, I'm assuming you are talking about astrology. I'm a Gemini Cancer cusp, born right on the threshold of those two signs. Thebus says, any advice for learning flowers when you are left-handed but spin clockwise dominant? Everything just wants to get crossed up. Oh, goodness. Thespis, I should say. Yeah, so let me switch back to full body. So, like, you're not specifying here whether you're trying to learn in-spin flowers or anti-spin flowers, so I will just give you instructions on both. So my favorite way to learn flowers is to kind of trick people into learning them, and that's to first teach them something called a linear isolation. So if I get the poi spinning clockwise, and it actually does not matter which hand you're using for this, just so long as you keep the direction consistent. So it could be left hand, it could be right hand. Regardless, if you start the poi spinning clockwise and have it over on your left hand side, you're going to do a little thing where you like stall it straight down your midline. So that'll mean that both the poi and your hand come to your midline. And then you're going to pull your hand all the way out to the right. And as you do so, you're going to kind of flick up on the tether and get the poi spinning clockwise once again. So again, that is stall on your center line and then move out to the right. Now coming back from the right hand side, you're going to basically stall up your midline and your hand is going to sneak underneath the poi as you move back over to the left here. So you're stalling down, heading to the right, stalling up, heading back to the left. Again, it doesn't matter which hand you're using, just so long as the poi is spinning clockwise relative to you. So we drop down to the right, we pop up to the left. Drop down to the right, pop up to the left. Okay, so if you get to a point where you can just go straight back and forth like this basically feels like you've got 3 beats to the poi. I like to think of it as you've got a beat left, center, right, left, center, right, because that point where it's going straight up is not a beat. It's the poi going up rather than the poi going down. There's only 3 beats to this. So when you can get this to a point where it is reasonably consistent, you can start to open it up into a flower. So when the poi goes down, your hand goes down with it, and when the poi goes up, your hand goes up with it. I should say when it stalls down, your hand goes down. When it stalls up, your hand goes up. So we go down, up, down, up. And guess what? That's a 4-petal anti-spin flower. Kudos. We got there. Good job. And then if you come back to just taking your hands straight back and forth in a straight horizontal line like so, you can also open it up in such a way that as the poi is doing that down stall, your hand is going up, and as the poi does the up stall, your hand is going down. So it's actually exactly the same pattern when your hand is just going straight back and forth, but depending upon if your hand is moving with the poi, it becomes anti-spin, or if your hand is moving against the poi, it becomes in-spin. Which, like, when I'm saying moving with or against, I just mean that as the poi is going down, your hand's going down. Not that your hand is turning in the same direction as your poi, which, as you will note when I'm doing anti-spin here, my hand is going around counterclockwise as the poi goes around clockwise. And likewise, when my poi goes down but my hand goes up, both the hand and my poi are going around clockwise. So this is my favorite way to teach people how to do flowers. I think it's pretty intuitive and it gives you access to both options, but through learning the same technique. So I hope that helps. Thanks for the great question. Oh, Louise dropped something else in the chat here. Cool. Louise has a question now. First, she's saying, I would love to take in-person lessons from you. I am now a senior citizen. My guess is that you are in the United States. I am actually. I live in one of the suburbs just outside of Washington, D.C. So I don't know if you're local to Washington, D.C., but I do offer virtual lessons when I have openings. Send me an email at drex@drexfactor.com. I don't believe I currently have any private lesson openings. I think all my slots are filled. But send me an email and we can check back in like a week or two, because I think I have I think one of those slots is from a student who might not continue to take lessons. So reach out to me, and we will see if we can come to an arrangement there. Luis asks, what are the best poi to get if you are just starting out? In all honesty, I think I think sock poi are freaking amazing for everybody. Beginner, intermediate, advanced, you name it. If you're looking for LED poi, my recommendation would be pod poi. But like seriously, these take a beating. They're really, really soft. They've got a good weight to them. Sock poi, the store is called Neo Poi. Neo poi, like the Matrix has you, Neo. You look them up on Google, and one of the items in the top menu bar is sock poi. If you use the code DrexFactor at checkout, you'll get a discount on the order too. So these are definitely what I recommend. They are probably my favorite poi that I've used in my time as a flow artist. Really consistent. Yeah, also they look great on camera, I gotta say. Yeah. Well, thank you for the question. All right, jumping back here, and again, if anybody else wants to get their question prioritized in the queue, super chat's the way to do it, or if you just want to support the channel, also helpful. Cool. Mitch, oh, and also Thespis, just to put this out there, your dominant hand doesn't matter nearly as much as you think it does. You're going to wind up developing your skills with both hands. And do bear in mind that like two of my closest homies in the poi world, going back, like Alien John and Charlie, are both left-handed. There was a really funny weekend where they came and hung out with me here in DC, and I realized that of the three of us, I was the only one who was right-handed, which was a really fun discovery. Mitchell Operman says, no worries, not for everybody. I like pop music as well. Been a fan and watching for 10 plus years. Keep doing what you do. Thank you. I shall. Nico Treat, I want to learn Xans Diamond with reels 2 and the Nevisol. Xans Diamond with reels? I do not know what you're referring to there. Are you talking about like a body trace version of Xans Diamond? If you could specify in the comments, that would help me narrow down what's going on there. Also says, I want to learn horizontal cat-eye versus isolation. I want too much. Thespis says, don't we all? Nico Treat says, any tips on cleaning up my regular cat-eye versus isolation? Lots of questions, sorry. It's okay. Sounds like cat-eyes are a big theme for you tonight. Cool. Let me real quickly answer your questions about cat eyes. So, so the theory behind this, for anybody who is just getting familiarized with cat eyes. So, cat eye has a weird history to it. So there's a guy named Arashi who was a really influential poi spinner back in the late 2000s who had techniques that were just completely different from everybody else. Alien John loved to study his stuff, and Alien John had this theory that because Arashi started off as a whip cracker, that meant that he had a really unique style for poi, and he thought of poi as being like a short whip, which given Arashi's style, I think is pretty accurate. But Arashi would refer to anything that produced an ellipse with poi as a cat eye. So linear extensions would be a cat eye. Alien John refined that vocabulary a little bit to give us both linear extensions as well as this. This is what's currently understood to be a cat-eye. And the idea here is that the poi is spinning in the opposite direction that my hand is, and my hand is moving around a circle that has the diameter that is the length of a poi. So basically, my hand would be tracing out in isolation if the poi and hand were moving in the same direction. But since the poi is moving in the opposite direction, I'm instead tracing out a cat-eye that is an ellipse, a very, very tall and narrow ellipse around my hand. So when it comes to performing vertical cat-eyes, the way I usually break this down for people is to have them start with their poi in between their feet, and your hand is going to reach up next to your right shoulder, and you're going to try and make the poi come up next to your left shoulder. And then you're going to try going the opposite way. Your hand is going to go for your left shoulder. You want to get your poi head over to your right shoulder, like so, and you drop back down center. So you get used to this, pulling your poi and hand up to try and get them to contact with either shoulder. You're basically like pulling your hand one way and trying to get the poi to go the opposite way. You want to get good enough at doing this that you can just bounce straight back and forth between the two sides. And when you're ready to, what you're going to do is add a little bit of extra oomph on one side of that to let the poi go over your hand as your hand switches which shoulder it's next to. Like so. And then when that gets to feel comfortable, you just keep moving your hand around in that circle, and that gets you to a vertical cat-eye. There is also a horizontal cat-eye. This is one of those moves that I always expected was going to become more popular, but it just, I don't know whether it turns out that it is just that bloody hard or whether people are just more interested in learning other stuff, but this one never became popular in the way that I was expecting it to. Unlike other things like, you know, the Mercedes became wildly popular and it comes out of the same era. Horizontal cat-eye is basically that you're going to drag the poi underneath your hand from one side to the other and flick the poi over your hand as your hand drops down to your waist. And the real trick is you got to catch your hand and poi once they get to the other side of your body. So we drag and flick, drag and flick, drag and flick. It's not that different from linear extension. The biggest difference being that the drag has to happen at shoulder level, and when you do the flick, your hand has to drop down to your waist level, like so. And the best way to kind of demonstrate your proficiency at cat-eyes is to use them in hybrids, like isolation versus cat-eye. This is a classic unit circle hybrid that Alien John made very, very popular back in the day. And if you look down the side here, I'm basically just like creating two lanes for the poi. So the isolation is basically happening in buzzsaw plane, and the cat-eye is happening over in, it winds up being wall plane relative to the audience, but relative to me, it feels a little bit more like wheel plane. It's kind of like on the side of me instead of necessarily straight in front of me. And just you grind on this and try and make sure that you can keep the poi in contact with each other as you go around. And man, does it look cool when you nail it. And of course, there's the same corollary with horizontal cat-eye versus isolation. This is kind of the first trick that I made my name on when I was producing my videos. I worked really, really hard at this, and I almost threw out my shoulder learning how to do it. But suffice it to say, finding a way to sync up that horizontal cat-eye with the isolation is super challenging. There is absolutely no way around it, and you definitely know that you've mastered that horizontal cat-eye when you can get the two of them to match up. So that's cat-eyes, friends. That's cat-eyes. Hooah! All right. Goodness, there's a lot in the chat now. Sorry I'm falling behind, everybody. Ashley Anderson says, thanks for your videos. I still haven't figured out how to do reel turns. My brain is broke. I feel you. My first time learning how to do reels, I found them incredibly difficult as well. Here, give me a second to look through the chat and I will give you some tips on how to do it. Jillian says, thank you for explaining that. You're welcome. Mike, or no, that's just M. Dolator D. I'm trying to learn reels and they're messing me up. How do I train my hand to stay on the outside when shifting? Apparently a lot of people are trying to explore some reels. That's I would not have pegged that. Also good sock poi recommendations from Neopoi, the fabric poi from Neopoi. They are without a doubt my favorite. They are without a doubt my favorite. Flow Toys is super expensive for $80, so that's a no-go. Yeah, I think the fabric poi, so the sock poi that you get from Neopoi are like $50, I want to say. I looked that up the other day. Don't quote me on that, but I think they're around 50. Yeah, they're the ones that I would recommend getting them from. You're ordering them from abroad, so it'll take like 2 weeks for them to arrive. But like seriously, these are awesome. Any tips for an inverted 3-beat weave? Asks, wow. Oh my God, the queue is very long now. Okay, before I get too far further into all this, let me go ahead and answer the question about reels. Okay, so I don't know about you all, but when I was first learning reels, the thing that really messed me up, the reason that I just could not get this for the life of me, is that I thought like the poi were each kind of staying on their own side. So if you look at it sideways and everything, I figured that something like that would happen. And of course, if you try to do that, either the poi will hit you or you get all tangled up. The thing that it took, that I just could not put together that first lesson, and that took me a long time to learn, was that whenever you're performing reels, you're looking to take the two poi from occupying parallel tracks on the side of you to moving one of them over so that they're in the same track for a moment, and then with the other hand switching over back into two separate tracks. That is the case whether you're going from forwards to reverse or from reverse to forwards. So check it out. Going from reverse to forwards, I start with them in 2 tracks, then I go 1 track, 2 tracks, like so. 2 tracks, 1 track, 2 tracks, 2 tracks, 1 track, 2 tracks, like so. And really what that means, and the thing that makes this feel like cheating, of course, is, you know, as they're both passing on the same side of you, it feels like you've kind of broken the integrity of that thing. And that's not actually the case. You can think of this more as being that what's happening is your hands are kind of moving back and forth like this at your sides, and all you're doing is you're turning your upper body as that happens. Boom, like so. You can actually keep your hands square with your shoulders the whole way around here. It's just you turn the orientation of your upper body from stage right to stage left, and that does the job for you. Pardon me. Bless me. So I don't know if that's the specific challenge that you're having or not, but that was the specific challenge that I was having when I first learned reels. And you know, it's also a challenge that has become a part then of like learning reels in any timing and direction mode, where you're switching back and forth between 1 track or 2 tracks to 1 to 2, whether that be together opposites, split time opposites, or split time same direction. It's all exactly the same theory. And in order to get from one side to the other, you're just employing a tic-tac. It's a 2-beat. So one way that you can get used to that is actually to have both your poi spinning at your sides and work on performing a tic-tac with just one hand at a time. And stopping the poi, turning so that they wind up in wall plane, and then working on doing tic-tacs with the other hand. Stopping and turning into wheel plane, like so. That is the best way that I have found to really get people comfortable with reels, like just in general. So yeah, that's what I recommend. And there's another super chat, huzzah, from Thespa saying Gesundheit, thank you. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to all the fumes from the exterminator being up in my business tonight. But again, I've got all the windows open in the apartment right now, so hopefully the fumes all drain out as we're doing this here. But thank you, Thesbus. I really appreciate it. Let me look and see if there is a question you had in the queue here right quick. And if not, you are more than welcome to throw another question out there and get it to the top of the queue. Okay, I am seeing, I've always been a big fan of tube socks and tennis balls. I've never actually been a fan of tennis balls themselves inside of the socks. The tennis balls wind up just being too light for my tastes, but you know, that's... Your taste might be different than mine. But I'm also saying, is there a term when you transition from a butterfly to a corkscrew and back, since they are essentially the same thing on different planes? I would just call that plane breaking. So, like, here's the thing. There's a way people do this, wherein they start with a corkscrew, and then they kind of just straighten it up into a windmill, and or maybe bring it back down. Lots of people will, you know, say start with a 2-beat weave and then, you know, turn it into a windmill or a corkscrew, because it's just the motions are very similar. Thing is, the transitions between those things don't look terribly clean, I don't think. The way I prefer to think of this is that as I'm doing a corkscrew here, I can bring my poi to a stop on either side of me and then switch the plane that they're in. Same is true with the windmill. I can find places where I can briefly pause the movement of the poi and then do a hard switch on the plane, going back and forth between them. The way I'm doing this, I'm using something that I call a plane snap. So there's some controversy about this term, but the way I originally learned how to do plane breaks is that you were meant to do them out of a 0 point. So like, for example, you can turn the petal of an anti-spin flower into a stall, and out of that stall, you can switch which plane you're doing things in. Likewise, pendulums work the same way. In fact, that's how I was first taught to do plane breaks, is to perform pendulums back and forth and then switch into horizontal plane. Now, what I'm showing you right now is a little bit different, because with 0 points, you're looking at a moment where the poi has lost momentum, and that does make it a lot easier to plane break. But there are also cases where, say, like, I have the poi coming downward, in which case it's not losing momentum, it's gaining momentum, but at the same time, boom, I can still change the plane it's operating in. I call this a plane snap, because it's basically a hard reset of the momentum of the poi to switch it into a different plane. So I like the idea of taking a windmill, and when the poi are crossed over, that's your moment to do a plane snap into a corkscrew. Or when you're in a corkscrew, that moment when the poi are separate, boom, that's your plane snap into the windmill. I think it just looks more interesting when you have clean changes between those planes, rather than kind of like just trying to figure out how to kind of muscle the move into a slightly different plane. But your mileage may vary on that. That's just kind of the aesthetic that I got coming up in the tech poi scene when I did in the late 2000s, early 2010s. And part of that was that if you were going to do, people wanted to see precision in a trick. They didn't kind of want to see two tricks blurring together like that. It was always more like, okay, I want to see that trick, and then I want to see that trick, and I want to see clear differentiation between them. And also too, just the capacity to do really quick and accurate plane changes was something that conferred with it an enormous amount of prestige when people realized it was possible to do it. It definitely, I think it looks cool personally, but that I've seen no shortage of people in my day going from like a 2-beat weave to either a windmill or a corkscrew, and I totally get how people get there for sure. And there's nothing wrong with that being a place where you go in the course of this, you know? Oh goodness, Louise. Thank you so much. Another super chat from Louise. You're awesome. Louise is asking why are they fumigating? It's so DC is in a subtropical zone, so we get bugs. We get lots and lots of bugs, yeah, this apartment building that I live in has been around like since the 50s or 60s, and it's basically it very literally is a bomb shelter. There is like a fallout shelter in this building, but it also just has a lot of nooks and crannies, and we have a cockroach problem in the building. And my downstairs neighbor apparently decided to get fumigated, and so the landlord called me up and was like, "Hey, do you want to get fumigated the same day?" And at first I was like, "No, I hate the chemicals they use. It like does bad things to my lungs and my sinuses." And then I kind of thought about it a little bit more, and I talked to my girlfriend about it, and my girlfriend pointed out to me that if the bugs were trying to escape my downstairs neighbor's apartment, there was a good chance that they were going to set up shop in mine if mine didn't get fumigated. So at that point, I was just like, all right. So, yeah, short answer is it's an old building, lots of bugs here, and my downstairs neighbor got fumigated. So to make sure that I was not the bugs next port of call, I got fumigated myself. And you know, there are some bugs in my apartment too. It wasn't bad, but at the same time, it's like let's make sure it doesn't get any worse than this. Goodness, I'm trying to keep track of where everything is in the chat here. Bum, bum, bum. All right, let me read through a bunch of these, and I can try and queue up the next volley of question answers here. Oh my God, it's 7:45 already. So we got about 15 minutes more of this, my friends. Appreciate all the questions here. Nico Treat says, I've constantly been working on my linear isolations. Good, excellent. Those are good to work on. Eileen says, any pointers for using orb poi with wrist wraps? They tangle easily. Yeah, they do. So just wrist wraps in general are a pain in the butt with contact poi just because of the form factor. If you're using contact poi, pendulums and stalls are probably the way to go for direction changes. When you do wrist wraps, stuff that has a more glow stick like form factor is going to be your friend. You can do them with contact poi, but they do easily get tangled. You have to be really good at making sure that you only get just enough of the poi around your wrist so that the head just barely touches the tether on the other side. You don't want enough to get around so that it can fully wrap. You just barely want it to touch, and then like if you just give it a small little pull, it'll come loose then. But yeah, contact poi are very unforgiving when it comes to wrist wraps for sure. Nico Treat says the Xans Diamond Alien John thought. I don't know what you're referring to there. Alien John can do Xans Diamond. I've seen him do it many times. But yeah, ironically enough, it wasn't even Xan that came up with that pattern, and he is baffled as to why it got associated with his name. The first person to really suggest it, and like the first person to unambiguously suggest it is actually Surreal, the same guy who created an amazing variety of contact poi tricks. He published a paper several years ago. He published a paper a decade and a half ago called poi spinning in geometry. And in it, he outlines several different shapes that can be built out of poi linear isolations, which, if I'm not mistaken, there wasn't even a name for linear isolations at the time, but he was still creating shapes out of them. And the shape that we now understand to be Xans Diamond was among those listed in that document. And then when Xan and Alien John put out the Arizona transmission video, the opening bit of it, the intro, had Xan going back and forth through that shape with and as Xan is telling it, literally what it was is he drew it on a piece of paper and cut it out and put it in a scanner, and then used video editing software to superimpose it on top of himself, so people would get the impression of the pattern that he was playing with. And I think just because it was such a popular video and it, the demonstration of it was so visual in that way, people associated with him and called it Xans Diamond. But Xan will be the first person to tell you he did not invent it. He did not invent it. And again, he's so baffled by the fact that people associate it with him. Jillian says atomic flowers. Yeah, they're a thing. I'm not sure if you're asking how to do them or not. There. Nico Treat, the other way to do it. Sorry, I want to meet Alien John, but for real, bro, you changed my, I think that's supposed to be life. New Year's Eve 2019, I made a promise to myself that I was going to get noticeably better. Thanks to you, I did. Cool. I'm glad to hear that. I'm so glad that I was able to support your journey in that way. Louise says, I am on the east of Canada near Toronto. Yeah, so there's a little bit of distance there, I'm afraid. But yeah, send me an email and we'll see if we can hook you up with some Zoom lessons. Oh, shoot. Nico Treat, thank you for the super chat, mate. Oh my goodness, now I gotta go through and see the rest of these questions here. Thank you so much, Nico. I really appreciate that. Cool. So Nico says, thanks, man. When you said only 5 people knew how to do it, that's why it's my top goal. Only 5 people knew how to... horizontal cat-eye versus isolation. Yeah, when I first learned how to do it, and bear in mind, there were probably other people in the world that could do it, but to the best of my knowledge, there were only 5 people in the world that could do isolation versus horizontal cat-eye when I picked it up. And granted, there's always the question there of if that's because it's so hard or if that's just because only 5 people decided that was something that they really wanted to learn. Yeah, I definitely had a little bit of an ego about that for sure. But at the same time, I think it's a totally reasonable conclusion to make that maybe part of the reason that it hasn't caught on is that it's not appealing to quite so many people. But yeah, I'm glad it's a goal. I'm glad it's a goal because it's an awesome trick. I've been wanting to learn the Nevisol for 2 years. I think I got down the concept, but it looks a little wrong. I sent you a video on Instagram. Should we send you emails instead? You should absolutely send me emails instead. I don't check my message requests on social media for a few reasons. One of the biggest ones being that people started abusing it. People would say things to me in DM that were pretty crappy, and I just got to a point where I'm like, I don't need to let this into my life in this way. So yeah, I don't check DM requests on most social media platforms. If you need to get a hold of me, email me, drex@drexfactor.com. That is my professional email, and I go through that when I have the opportunity to do so. But let me see if there was anything else you'd asked in here too. Good. Oh, wow. It is popping off in here. The Nevisol. Okay. Heard. Okay. We'll do the Nevisol. Okay. So, what the heck is the Nevisol, you may be asking? So the Nevasol is a body tracer that was popularized by a Swedish poi spinner by the name of Thomas Nevasol Johansson. And the thing is, like, when I describe what this actually is, you're gonna find it kind of funny because it's actually, so believe it or not, it's the same idea as this hybrid right here. I'm putting together a 2-pedal in-spin and a 4-pedal anti-spin. And all I'm doing here is I'm performing it in such a way, I'm keeping my poi spinning both clockwise in split time, same direction, and my hands, if I wrap up my poi, check it out. They're doing a reverse butterfly. So it is poi spinning split time, same direction, my hands going in a reverse butterfly, like so. And if I take away one hand at a time, you'll see my right hand is doing a 2-pedal in-spin flower. I'm just sticking one of the pedals behind my back, like so. And my left hand is doing a 4-pedal box mode anti-spin flower, where the arc between 2 of the flower petals is going behind my head. And then I'm bringing the flower down on my left side and bringing it up on my right side, like so. So, how do you get to the point where you can put all these pieces together? So, I'm gonna give you the more challenging way because I think you'll learn more by doing it. And that's to start off with a crosser. And you wanna, so the hand that's performing the 2-pedal in-spin flower, for me it's my right hand. I'm doing the crosser with my right hand on bottom. The recipe for getting a crosser down, you want to start off by just crossing your arms and keeping the poi spinning forwards over to your stage right, and then practice spinning the poi reverse over to your stage left, and then you want to practice turning back and forth between them. So you keep this steady for 10 beats going forwards, you keep this steady for 10 beats going reverse, and when you want to turn between them, I'm going to wait until my right hand poi is going down past my feet, and I'm going to follow it around, and then I'm going to wait until my left hand poi, which is now on my right side, is pointing up, and I follow it back around to stage right. So I follow my right hand over to stage left, and my left hand over to stage right. My right hand over to stage left, and my left hand over to stage right. When I get comfortable with this, I want to imagine that I'm going to do 3, 2, 1 beats and turn, 3, 2, 1 beats and turn. When I get comfortable with that, I'm going to imagine 1, 2 and turn, 1, 2 and turn, and then go down to just 1, 1, 1, 1, going straight back and forth to either side. And you'll note that as I'm doing this, I am pivoting my upper body back and forth from stage left to stage right to adjust constantly. Okay, so how do we get from this to the Nevasol? So glad you asked. All we do from here is we take this shape where I have my right hand under my left hand and I pick it up around my head. So now my left hand is behind my head and my right hand is in front of my head. So it's literally just I bring my hands together with my right hand on bottom, and when I push this shape up, I wind up with the left hand behind my head, and then I take them out. Again, I come up, right hand under, push it up so that my left hand is behind my head, open up, and come around back down. If I do that with the poi, what I'm doing is right hand under, and then pushing the left hand behind as I'm getting into that spot between the 2 top petals of that box mode anti-spin flower here. So you can kind of think of, if you want to treat this top part right here as what Nick Woolsey likes to call a no-beat windmill, which is such a great challenge to take up. Basically, to do a no-beat, you decide, I'm just going to hang out with, so instead of, a normal windmill is 2 beats, because each hand gets 1 beat on one side of you. And to do a no beat, you basically hang out with one hand permanently on one side and the other hand permanently on the other side. And you try and keep the timing and direction consistent. And then you can switch it up and try it with the other hand, like so. So you can think of it as going from a crosser to a no beat and then taking it out. crosser, no beat, out, and just go straight through those different positions in order to get both shapes down and get to that hybrid, the Nevasol. That is the long explanation of how to get there, but again, you learn more going the long way around. So, thank you, says Nika. You're welcome. You're welcome. Cool, cool, cool. Now I'm going to go back through the chat here because there's a lot of stuff that's been piling up here. Wow, I'm behind here. Thespis, is there a term when you transition from butterfly to a corkscrew and back? Oh yeah, I already did see that one. Justin from Houston, Texas here. Hello. Always love you. Been watching you for just about 5 years now. Excellent, excellent. I'm glad to have you in Drexland here. Oh wow, so you must have picked me up right before COVID then. Yay! Then you got a whole mess of beginner videos fairly early on then. Huzzah. Justin is asking how to 3D poi. There's a lot of ways to do that. You can do plane breaking, you can do atomics, you can do toroids. Is there a specific type of 3D you're interested in learning more about? Dolodor D, what do you put in the tube? The tube? I don't know what you're asking me about there. Maybe there is a clue further down here. Let's see here. I mean specifically with butterfly to cork. Oh, butterfly to corkscrew. Goodness. Sorry. So a butterfly in itself is not the same thing as a corkscrew. The reason being that to be a corkscrew, it's a weave, and thus the poi have to change their plane facing relative to your hands in the course of it. That's not necessarily a guarantee with a butterfly. But when you do like a one-handed butterfly, you can flatten down that pattern to looking something like a corkscrew, but it's not quite a corkscrew because the poi are staying on the same side of your hand. You can, here, let me give a visual demonstration here. Okay, so corkscrews. See how my poi are going both over and under my hands here? Again, the kind of basic principle here is that we're changing plane facing. So if I, boom, stop my poi on one side of my body, it appears to be spinning counterclockwise relative to me. And if I stop it on the other side of my body, boom, it appears to be spinning clockwise relative to me. So this happens when we change which side of the hand/body the poi is spinning on. This also happens in corkscrews. So we get in one beat on either side of us, right? Now there's an exercise I sometimes give people to perfect the planes in a one-handed butterfly where I have them flatten down the planes, and at this point it's kind of hard to tell from this camera angle, but the poi are spinning around in split time same direction on a horizontal plane. That's getting towards a corkscrew, but it's not quite a corkscrew. To actually get to a full corkscrew, I have to add to that motion to put beats both above my hand and below my hand. But just this alone is not that. And you know, you could also do this with two hands at the same time, flattening down those planes. Again, not a corkscrew, but that's a corkscrew. And the thing is from like the butterfly itself, by its very nature, we're keeping the poi always on the same side of the hand. We're not doing things like, say, either bringing them inside the hands like that, which would change the plane facing, or you know, moving them over to the other side of the body, which also would change the plane facing. If the plane facing stays consistent, then when it flattens down, we do get split time same direction in horizontal plane, but not a corkscrew. We have to add an additional piece to the puzzle in order to turn it into a corkscrew. We have to convert it into a move that does a plane facing change there. Dark Light, how do I do a Xans Diamond versus 4-pedal anti-spin? That's going to be a pain because Xans Diamond, you're going to have to spin the poise so many more times than Xans Diamond. Let me look through the rest of the queue here right quick and come back to that. Jillian Danskin just says meltdowns. I'm assuming that means she wants to learn how to do them. Shrimp says, no questions, but thank you for being the best starting point for new spinners. Started about a year ago and haven't felt so connected as I do now. That's really good to hear. I'm glad to hear that, Shrimp. I hope that journey continues. Nico, as opposed to Nico Treat, says, hi Drex, thank you for all of your videos. That's amazing to teach us like that. Really, thanks. You're so welcome. Oh yeah, Mordecai is asking about an inverted 3-beat weave. Jillian is asking about atomic flowers. Coal Kitten, I'm going through your COVID tutorials right now. Thank you for creating them. Chicago hosts fire jams, and now I'm interested in learning poi and dragon staff to eventually do fire down the line. Excellent. Excellent. That's awesome. Magi Murph says, started spinning again recently after a 10-year hiatus. Thank you for the tutorials and inspirational info show. You're so welcome. Nico is overcome with gratitude. Roanoke, Texas. Hello. North of Dallas, Fort Worth. Hello from just outside of Washington, D.C. Louise Lanthier asks, is Drex your real first name? No. Well, that is the name that I have gone by for my entire adult life. I have been Drex now for 23 years. So I think it's as real a name as I have at this point. It's not the name on my... It's not the first name listed on my birth certificate. My last name is Drexler. And I knew a bunch of other kids in college who had the same first name that I did on my birth certificate. And our college friends just started referring to us by our last names instead. And by the end of college, that had been shortened from Drexler to just Drex. And thus I have been Drex since I was like 20 years old. Yeah. Kato says, thank you for all your teaching over the years, Drex. I've been struggling with no-beat tosses for months, and I'm wondering if you have any tips for keeping them continuous and smooth. Thespis says, that was a great explanation. Thank you. You're welcome. Jillian says, playing around with the heavy and light when you are doing corkscrews feels completely different than when you were doing them regular. It's true. And Nico Treat says, you even inspired me to teach more people that ain't able to get certain things down, like thread the needle and next level up type tricks. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. So there's a lot of questions in the queue right now, and we're already past 8 o'clock. So I'm going to tell y'all what. Mardekal asked about the inverted 3-beat weave a while ago. So I'm going to show y'all how to do inverted 3-beat weaves, and then I'm going to wind things down for the night. If y'all want to keep me around for longer, throw another super chat in there, huh? All right, so inverted 3-beat weave. So inversion is another one of those terms like cat-eye that has a really weird history to it, and there's some disagreement about what it actually means. What I'm used to thinking of as an inverted weave is the same thing as what we would call a barrel roll. The term inversion is something that comes to us from a poi spinner who goes by the handle Rev, and he discusses it extensively in what he refers to as his manifesto. So according to Rev, what an inversion is it's a swing that brings the poi in between your arms. So there's a variety of different ways that you can invert a 3-beat weave. But the version of it that got popularized that was called an inverted 3-beat weave when I first started spinning was this right here, which again, lots of people also call a barrel roll. We're getting into an era of poi where the same move had like 4 different names depending upon what region you were in. How do you accomplish that? Basically what you're looking to do is you start the poi spinning on your sides here, and if I start on my right side, my right hand is going to cross over my left hand, so it's kind of like hanging around it, and then I'm going to pop it up around my left hand in such a way that the left hand poi winds up tangled around my right arm, and then I pop out the left hand and the right hand automatically comes out. So let me show you that again. Right hand goes through the middle and then it drags the left hand through the middle. You can do the same thing coming back from the left side. The left hand poi kind of aims to go around the right hand, and the right hand poi then follows it through. So we go around from the right, we go around from the left, we go around from the right, we go around from the left. I'm much more certain about something called an introverted weave, where an introversion is when both of the poi are spinning in a plane that is behind your arms. So an introverted weave is this bunch of business right here. And it basically takes these moments where we have the 2 poi kind of spinning behind our elbows, and otherwise, it looks very, very similar to what we would normally think of as a 3-beat weave, because I'm still on my right side popping out my right hand poi and taking it around to my left, and popping out my left hand poi and taking it over to my right, like so. The long and short of this is that instead of when you normally do a 3-beat weave, bringing around one of your hands on top after it has swung around behind you, that swing around behind you instead happens in your elbow pit, like so. So it kind of like goes in between your arms and then pops straight out. And then whichever hand is in front, you're also spinning through your elbow pit. So you can practice each of these pieces individually here. You can have the poi that is about to lead go through your elbow pit, and you can also have the poi that is waiting to be led spin in its own elbow pit. And you put the 2 together and you wind up with an introverted weave, which is kind of cool because it's also an atomic, which somebody else, I believe, asked about atomics, or I think it was an atomic flower, my bad. And yeah, cool little atomic here. It looks a little different depending upon what your perspective is. Some perspectives, it looks like the poi are spinning in split time same direction, and in some perspectives, it looks like they're spinning in split time opposites. So it's a pretty nifty little pattern. And the only thing is you have to have pretty short poi, and the poi heads need to be fairly small in order to run it. But yeah, it's a cool little pattern, I gotta say. An atomic flower. An atomic flower is not nearly as cool as y'all think it is. Like, so, all right, I'm gonna do this real quickly before I sign off here. So, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm kicking somebody's puppy as I'm doing this here. So atomic just means that the poi are at a 90-degree angle in planes to each other. So it could be 2 vertical planes, it could be a vertical and horizontal plane like so. So literally all you have to do in order to put together an atomic flower is you have one poi that is in your standard wheel plane, and then you can put the other poi in wall plane like so, or you can put it in a horizontal plane like so. This is an atomic flower. It really is not that exciting. It's just doing, God, I'm so used to, there we go. Yeah, so atomic flower, that's all it is. You just are performing a flower with the poi in 2 different planes at the same time. That's all. Yeah, that's the thing. Mordecai says, thank you for the explanation. I was looking for the introverted weave, but have heard it called inverted before. Cool. I'm glad I showed you the right thing then. Good explanation. I was able to grab my poi and get it. Perfect. That's what I like to hear. All right, friends. I am tired. I am ready to get some dinner in me. I appreciate you all hanging out with me tonight. Real quickly before we go, 2 orders of business. Number 1, I just wanted to thank once again everybody who left me a super chat in the course of the past hour. Nico and Thespis and Louise, I really appreciate you all. Very, very helpful. Thank you for supporting the channel and supporting me. And item number 2, take my poi dance class in 2 weeks. Starts up October 22nd. I'm going to throw the link to the class in the chat right quick, so as y'all can go find it. Come sign up for my class. Pretty please. I would appreciate it. Yeah. So, I'm pooped. I'm ready to be done for the night. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And I might try and make this a regular thing again. Do another one soon. I've got you on Fridays to Sundays. Got it. I got it. Cool. Beginner friendly? I'm 3 weeks in. Thanks, by the way. Yes, it is beginner friendly. It is beginner friendly. It's going to be all about pendulums and the wonderful things that you can do with pendulums. And yes, it is absolutely beginner friendly. It's a live stream class. All the classes are recorded. So if you can't make it at the time when the class is at, then then you can watch the recording later on. Dark Light, Xans Diamond versus 4-pedal anti-spin tutorial win. After I'm fed at the very least there. We'll see, we'll see. Yeah, cool. As you can hear, my voice is starting to give out, so I think it is time for me to sign off here. Thank you all so much. Take care. Please go check out and sign up for the class. I appreciate you all. Have a good evening, and we'll be back again here soon. Take care then, friends. Peace.